All right, welcome back everybody to Cruising Complete. Your host Barry here with this week's cruise news updates. We got a lot of information to dig into again this week. An update on the CDC and Florida case that went to mediation. We're going to talk about MSC's new ship that they're going to have coming out next year. And what everybody wants to know is when the test cruises are starting for all these cruise lines and when actual cruising is going to start. We had a release from some of the cruise lines. The CDC has released more updates on test cruises and approving those as they come through. So we have a list of all that information. Let's cruise into it. So news story number one is the state of Florida, Texas, Alaska versus the CDC lawsuit to get rid of the conditional sale order. It went to mediation, nothing happened with it in mediation, so now it's going back to the judge and getting kicked back to him for a decision ultimately. I don't think there's going to be a decision on it. The CDC is trying to get them to just throw the thing away. It's really not going to affect cruising at all because they're already working on a restart. We're going to dig into that in a minute. Cruise lines are announcing their summer plans on what ships will be sailing. More and more test cruises are getting approved by the CDC. We're going to talk about that. So I don't think this decision by the judge is going to affect anything. It's probably just going to get thrown out and swept under the rug. So with story number two is the MSC World Europa Ship is set to debut in the later part of 2022. Now, this ship, there's a lot of talk about them copycatting or resembling what Royal Caribbean's done with their Oasis class ships. It's going to have the distinct neighborhoods, kind of like the Oasis does, with they're not going to be exactly the same, but just different neighborhoods of the ship pretty much in different areas. They're going to try to separate like Oasis did to try to separate out the amount of people congregating to one area. Now that back end of the ship, like on Oasis class ships, where you have the boardwalk and then you have the Abyss slide, it's not actually a boardwalk, but it looks more like the promenade deck, but leading towards like outside. But it does have a spiral slide, a single spiral slide that is going to be one deck taller than Royal Caribbean's. So they're trying to get some bragging rights there. It's not going to be quite as large as the Oasis class ships. It's going to be a little bit taller, a couple decks taller, but not as long and not as wide, a little bit less gross tonnage. But it looks like a nice ship. It's definitely a ship that I'm looking forward to getting on in the future. It definitely looks like it would be a neat experience. So before we move into the big story everybody wants to talk about is what cruises are actually starting in the U.S. Is my cruise going to go? We have a full list of some cancellations, some full list of actual restart dates, and all of that coming up. But before we get there, I did want to invite everybody to subscribe to the channel. It's totally free, it costs you nothing, it helps us out, it keeps you updated on all the new cruise news updates that come out. Go to the Facebook group page, Cruising Complete, join there, that's free. You can see the stories as they come out throughout the week. You can communicate with other cruise lovers and just, interact with everybody. So definitely check out the Facebook group page as well. And definitely subscribe and like to the channel. That helps us out a ton, and we really, really appreciate it. We have our cruise coming up on the Adventure of the Seas in 13 days. We're going to be vlogging. We're not sure on the dining package, whether we want to do the dining package or not yet, or what excursions we're going to be doing, but we're definitely going to be vlogging the whole trip and trying to show the whole experience of that as cruising starts to resume. So now everybody wants to know about the cruises that are starting again. So we have a list of cruise ships that have been approved now by the CDC for test sailings. Now we have Bahamas Paradise Cruise Line. They have not been fully approved yet to go out of Port Palm Beach. They've been partially approved by the CDC, so I want to kind of do them first because they haven't been fully approved by the CDC, but partially approved. Carnival Vista has been approved to go out of Galveston for test cruises. Carnival Horizon out of Miami. Disney Dream out of Port Canaveral. The MSC Meraviglia out of Miami. Freedom of the Seas out of Miami, Royal Caribbean Symphony of the Seas out of Miami, Independence of the Seas out of Port Everglades, Allure of the Seas, and Mariner of the Seas out of Port Canaveral. Now those have all been approved for test cruises. And Celebrity Edge and Celebrity Equinox out of Port Everglades, those have been approved for the restricted cruises. They're a little bit different. They're going the vaccine route, so they're not going to require the test cruises. They can get passengers on board, paying passengers on board sooner. But they're calling those restricted voyages for whatever reason. Now, on top of this, we had Royal Caribbean come out and cancel a bunch of their cruises for the summertime. So they extended their cruise pause now through the end of August. Now the ships that this is the effects that is canceled through the end of August is Brilliance of the Seas, Enchantment of the Seas, Explorer of the Seas, Liberty of the Seas, Grandeur of the Seas, Oasis of the Seas, Radiance of the Seas, Rhapsody of the Seas, Spectrum of the Seas, Vision of the Seas, and Voyager of the Seas. Now, I was booked on Symphony of the Seas for the last week of July, and then I was doing a back-to-back the first week in August on Navigator of the Seas. Now, those aren't listed here on this cancellation through the end of August, but those trips were in fact canceled. So why weren't they, released through the end of August? Well, with Navigator, I can't really explain why they did cancel the Navigator, but Royal Caribbean also announced their restart plan for summer sailings and cruises that are on the website able to book right now for the summertime, that their restart is rolling out after these ships they're approved for test sailings already. So after the test sailings, they're going to start sailing again with paying passengers. So we have the list of that here on Royal Caribbean. Now this is just Royal Caribbean that's released this. We haven't got any information from Carnival, from MSC or Norwegian on their release restart or any of that yet as far as the summertime goes. Now, like I mentioned, Symphony of the Seas, they canceled ours at the end of July. They're planning on resuming on Symphony of the Seas, doing 7-night sailings out of Miami on August 14th. So August 14th, the start date for Symphony. Freedom of the Seas, July 2nd, they plan on doing 3- and 4-night sailings out of Miami going to the Bahamas. Odyssey of the Seas, July 3rd, 6- and 8-night sailings out of Fort Lauderdale. All of these are on their website. You can go on and book these cruises now. So they canceled a lot of summer cruises and they're kind of reorganizing things. But at least they're opening it up for booking. Some of the bookings that they canceled, they allowed a lift and shift to. Like when they canceled my Navigator, they said, hey, do you want to switch over and go on the Freedom of the Seas? The Freedom of the Seas is going to be sailing then. So they are allowing folks that are currently booked to move onto those cruises first before they're opening it up to everybody else. So other cruises that we know are going this summer: Serenade of the Seas, 7-night Alaska from Seattle starting July 19th. Allure of the Seas, 7 nights from Port Canaveral starting August 8th. Ovation of the Seas, 7-night Alaska from Seattle on August 13th. Independence of the Seas, 7-night cruises out of Galveston, Texas on August 15th. And Mariner of the Seas is doing 3- and 4-night sailings out of Port Canaveral on August 23rd. Now those are all the restart dates for the first cruise, and obviously they're going to keep going through the summertime into September and October, and we'll see, maybe they'll release more information. But what's interesting about this is the list of canceled cruises that they sent out through the end of August didn't have Navigator of the Seas on that list. But Navigator of the Seas is also not listed as approved for test cruises, and it's also not listed as part of Royal Caribbean's summer restart. So I don't know what's going on with Navigator. I know it's supposed to go over to Los Angeles at some point, so maybe they're working on something with that to get that to go over to Los Angeles maybe by this summer and start doing sailings out of there. So we'll see what's going on with the Navigator. Now also on Michael Bailey's Royal Caribbean group page on Facebook, when he made this announcement about these ships and these dates coming out and everything, he also said in there that on these sailings, while they're not requiring vaccinations, they do expect everybody to be vaccinated, but they're not requiring it. And he also said that if you're not vaccinated, they're going to have testing and other protocols in place that will be released later. So I know there's a lot of people that don't want to get the vaccine or can't for health reasons. So maybe down the road there still is an option on that for Royal Caribbean. Other cruise lines are making decisions on vaccines and not vaccines. So we'll just see how all that plays out in the future. But it's positive to see that we now have dates of cruises actually starting in the summertime. Great news, 13 days till our cruise. We're excited, we can't wait to go. Everything's looking up, everything's moving forward for the cruising industry, which is great. Thanks so much everybody for watching. Like I said, check out the Facebook group page. Make sure you subscribe. We're going to be vlogging. We're probably going to go live from the ship if we're able to. If the Wi-Fi is good enough, we'll try to do some live video. We'll definitely be updating the Facebook group page as we're cruising, posting pictures and videos there as well. So once again, thanks everybody for watching and have a great week.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.